Welcome to Mastering Money, Budgeting, Planning, and Living Generously, a presentation and conversation hosted by the Grand Canyon Synod Stewardship team. My name is Pastor Dan Potasnik. I'm the Director of Generosity and Mission Support for the Grand Canyon Synod, Office of the Bishop. And so, on behalf of Bishop Deborah Hutter, we are so excited that you are here. A few housekeeping items before I introduce our presenter. I ask that you keep yourself muted through the presentation, although there will be times where we ask you to unmute yourself for some question and answer times. But throughout the conversation, please, if you have a question that pops in your head, put it in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat and we'll try to answer the questions throughout. I am excited to introduce our presenter for this evening, Duane Gilson. Duane is a retired electrical engineer, an athlete, a member and leader at Spirit of Hope Lutheran Church in Mesa, Arizona, and a member of the Grand Canyon Synod Stewardship team. He's also a whiz at solar panels and has come over to drove across the valley and helped me uninstall and reinstall solar panels on my house to talk about stewardship of time and knowledge. Duane is a servant leader with both practical experience and a faith perspective to the often challenging topic of managing money. And so I will pass it off to Duane.
Thank you, Dan. Just like to note if you have a question, raise your hand. Dan will get them, and Dan will interrupt if it's something that we should answer in the topic that we're in. So want to keep this very casual. If you have questions, ask at any time. But definitely we'll have time to go into more depth on some items. So nothing's off the table, so ask away. But with that being said, I guess we can get started. So, all right. So welcome. This is not a presentation about asking people to give more money to the church. Dan wanted to bring a collection basket and started passing it around to everybody, but I said it's a little hard to do on a Zoom meeting. So he's taking Venmo instead. So he'll have that information at the end. So just please be generous. He needs the money. It's about this meeting is about faithfully managing God's gifts so that we can experience greater financial peace and live more generous lives. Money is one of the few places where our faith and our daily decisions meet almost every day. My hope is that each of us leaves with one practical step towards financial peace. Before we talk about budgets or financial plans, I want to begin where faithful stewardship always begins, with prayer. So, gracious God, everything we have is a gift from you. Give us wisdom to see those gifts clearly, courage to make faithful choices, and generous hearts ready to serve our neighbors. Free us from fear, comparison, and the endless pursuit of more. Teach us to manage what you have entrusted to us with gratitude, purpose, and joy. In Jesus' name, amen. So with that foundation, I want to go in with one question that changes the way we think about everything that we have. One question changes everything. Most financial seminars begin with how much we earn, save, or budget. We've all met with financial advisors at some time, and they're all about that. But today we're going to go start out with a different question. Who owns it? If everything belongs to me, my money primarily serves me. If everything belongs to God, I am not an owner, I am a steward. The foundation for that perspective is stated beautifully in Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's. The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it. This is the foundation. Scripture does not say that and say only the church or 10% belongs to God. It says everything, our homes, our careers, our abilities, retirement accounts, families, our very next breath, everything is a gift from God. If everything belongs to God, then our role is not really ownership. Our role is stewardship. So stewardship is bigger than money. It's bigger than giving. It's bigger than the church budgets. It's faithfully managing our time, talents, relationships, influence, health, and our financial resources. You notice financial resources is the last of that list. Everything else is also part of God's gifts. We don't own God's gifts. we manage them. We manage them for the glory of God. Martin Luther gives us a helpful Lutheran connection in his explanation of, "Give us this day our daily bread." Daily bread is much bigger than food. It includes the many material and rational gifts that sustain our lives. Everything we manage is part of God's provision, and we receive it with thanksgiving. And faithful stewardship does not happen by accident. As an engineer, I spent my career designing systems. Reliable systems are built intentionally. I never walked up to anything and just said, I think if we run some wires over here, this will be good. It takes months of planning. The same is true for our financial lives. You can't do it in a day. It's not a one call. You're not going to buy that lottery ticket and suddenly find all your financial problems are fixed. It doesn't work that way. Faithful stewardship grows from thousands of small decisions to plan, save, avoid unnecessary debt, and give generously. So what can we grow? What can we grow from those intentional decisions? It's something that I like to refer to as financial peace. So what is financial peace? Imagine going to bed without worrying about money, handling an unexpected car repair, maybe helping a child, supporting our church, or responding to someone in need. It's not because you are wealthy, but because you planned well. Financial peace is not having everything. It is trusting God and faithfully managing what He has entrusted to us. Uh, just go a little bit. The pictures, if you have a little bit of money in the bank and you've been saving that for an emergency, when you have a flat tire turns into an inconvenience. If you don't have any money in the bank and you have a flat tire, now you have no way of getting to work, you have no way of buying a tire, and you're going to end up financing it. And this is where it comes into, you're going to put it on a credit card, or you're going to go to a payday loan store to get enough money. And then you're not going to buy one tire, you're going to get sold four tires because you can't just make that decision. You need your car back. Um, so the next picture is actually from a generosity project thing. This is interesting that children's age 5 to 6 account for 41% of licensed character and entertainment merchandise sales in the US and Canada. So when they say, they're marketing, they're not marketing to us. They're marketing to our grandkids and our children and our children's children's children at this point. They're going after kids that are 5 years old and they are marketing to them. They want the new Sonic, they want the new Hedgehog, they want the new whatever that is this year. That's what they're after. They know the parents will buy it, the grandparents will buy it. Um, so this is what we face in today's world. Financial peace is being able to take the time to help somebody paint a house, or you have the time to stop. You're not so busy trying to get to your job or get to some event that's going on, to stop and help somebody, help a stranger change a tire. So how do we move forward, move towards that kind of peace? Begin with direction. So I'd like to stop for a minute here and just ask, what would financial peace mean to you? Is it having enough money in the bank? Is it having the relationships? Is it a dollar amount? Is it amount that you'd like to give? Maybe leave your grandchildren? If anybody has anything, just please raise your hand. Dan can unmute you and take your questions or
You can
statements.
unmute yourself.
Okay.
I don't have to.
I'll explain the picture while you're thinking. So that's Tina, my wife, and I. We went on a retirement cruise last year. My wife retired in July 3rd of last year, and I am mostly retired. I still work a couple hours a week. I don't know why, just for the fun of it, I guess. But we went on a 3-week cruise. It was 2 weeks of cruise, and in 3 weeks we went to Fiji, Australia, New Zealand, and back to Australia, and then flew back home. Um, Financial peace to me is being able to do this, knowing that it's all paid for before we take one step out the door to leave on vacation. There's no bills when we get back. Everything's been taken care of. And also that we have the resources to pay for this type of trip and to manage this trip and still have plenty to give to people in need, volunteer our time, our services, tithing. That's all part of our plan. That's all part of our financial piece.
Karen had her hand up. I think she was
Well,
thinking of something.
I just feel so honored to be welcomed here in this group. But the thing that comes to my mind, Duane, when I think about financial peace is the ability to be as generous as I want with folks who need it. With
Yes.
folks on the margin, with folks, with ministries that I care about, with not only my church, but global refuge and immigrant issues and other areas. And that's financial peace to me.
Well,
Uh, so I'm in a different life stage with a 7 month old, and I we quickly, with a newborn, you realize financial peace for us in this stage is getting a hospital bill and it not being an emergency, right? And on the flip side, needing to go to the emergency room because you have a 2 month old who is dehydrated, and that is what you need to do, and it not and you not having to think about money. Um, that that I don't think uh, the adults in I don't know if I knew any adults growing up that wouldn't have thought about money uh, because they had to, and so it really is an amazing thing to stay focused on the thing that needs to be the main thing.
anybody else have anything?
So I'm Donna Guerin. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you,
And
Donna.
I have recently been dealing with my 96-year-old mother's decline. And she had been living independently, and now she needs assisted living and some extra care. And it is ridiculously expensive. And she's not wealthy. She, kind of middle class and has some savings and other things, but it's been um, it's been really eye-opening to financial peace, for me now is taking on a different shape because I can foresee that, these costs aren't going to go down in the future. And it's a scary place. Um, so kind of I've shifted what I thought was, just a fine situation into thinking, oh my goodness, maybe this isn't such a good place.
You reevaluate.
Yep.
Yeah, very good point. Life changes. But similar story where my wife's mother became real ill up here in Milwaukee, and we had already moved to Arizona, and she flew up. She wasn't doing very well, and they were at the hospital, and there was just a lot of things going on. And what do we do? We're 1,800 miles away, and I was on the phone, and I said, well, she's coming here. I mean, she's going to come and live with us. We don't have another option. We're not going to put her in a nursing home. She's not that sick, and we're not going to. I just wouldn't do that. Um, and her and I didn't have the best relationships. My wife was pretty shocked, but I said, no, she's gonna come. So, we flew her to Arizona, and she lived with us for the next 6 years until she passed away in 2020. But just having the resources, I was just so grateful that we could do that. I could do that for my wife, you know, um, and just help her out. Dan, anybody else have their hand up?
No, I think we can.
Okay. All right. So going forward, every dollar needs a direction. If everything belongs to God, every dollar becomes an opportunity to reflect on our values, our care for family, preparing for tomorrow, support God's work, and enjoy his blessings with gratitude. The compass can only point us in a direction, but direction matters only if we know where we're trying to go. Uh, a compass and a roadmap are useful only if you know where you want to go. If you don't have any point, you're going to get lost, but I guess you can't get lost if you don't know where you're going. So that's a good way to look at it. Before we talk about money, ask yourself, what am I trying to build? Am I trying to build security for my family, freedom from debt, the ability to retire with peace, more capacity to give, experiences with people I love? We don't all have the same destination, but if we never choose one, our money simply will go wherever the next demand takes it. Direction comes before dollars. Faithful stewardship is not an accident. It requires both direction and intention. The tool we use to turn that direction into a plan is a wonderful thing called a budget. Now, I want to change the way you think about that word. People don't like the word budget. They think of it as a restriction, but there's another way to look at it. So once we know where we want to go, we face another challenge. Every day, something is competing to tell us where our money should go. Every day, someone is trying to tell us where our money should go. It's the new television, it's the new car, it's the latest fashion. There is nothing automatically wrong with any of those things, but there are other things that we say matter to us. We say our church matters to us, helping a neighbor matters to us, feeding people who are hungry, responding when disaster strikes. The question is not simply, what can I afford? The harder question is, does where my money go reflect what I say matters to me? So that is why a budget reveals our values. So once we decide that what truly matters, the next question is simple. What jobs are we asking our money to do? I want to go over this picture. This was also taken at the generosity event. Toddlers cannot distinguish a TV program from a commercial. When they're watching their cartoons on TV or YouTube and a commercial comes on, they think that's part of the show. So the advertisers know this, and they will try to make the advertisement fit the show so that when they're watching whatever program happens to be kids watching nowadays, their commercials are going to be for those products. Kid can't tell the difference. He thinks it's part of the show, and he just wants that because it's part of that particular cartoon, even though it has nothing to do with it. So, okay, we have 4 jobs for our money. A lot of times we see 3, but we've added an extra one here. So when we think about the money God has entrusted to us, I believe it serves 4 basic purposes. We give some, we use some to live, we save some for our future, and yes, we use some to enjoy life. We give to our church, ministries, organizations, and people we care about. We use money for everyday life, housing, food, transportation, insurance, all the ordinary expenses that come with just part of living. We save for emergencies, future needs, retirement, and things that we hope to do someday. And yes, we enjoy some of it. Vacations, hobbies, we go out to dinner occasionally, or maybe it's a fix it up or a rebuild on our house, or it's just spending more time with our family, maybe a family vacation. So we include enjoy intentionally. Faithful stewardship is not about feeling guilty every time we spend money on something we enjoy, but there is an order to this. Before we talk about vacations or other things, or any other thing that we want, we need to create some financial margin. Before we save for the vacation, plan the big purchase, or spend time simply because we can, we need to prepare before the storm. So unexpected things happen. Margin is breathing room between what we earn and what we spend. An emergency fund can turn some emergencies from simple inconveniences or turn emergencies into simple inconveniences. Faithful stewardship sometimes means preparing today for something that we hope never happens tomorrow. So how much margin do we need? The answer is not the same for everyone. first you got to start where you are. It's not a straight line. There's going to be times when you're doing really well and you think I've got this great emergency fund, and there's going to be times where you just have multiple incidences and you have to, you know, pay down that emergency fund. You have to draw it down a little bit. So it's not a straight line. You're not going to always be going up. Sometimes it's going to go down, but at the end of the day, you want to keep enough margin so that you're not going into debt to pay for things that should have been planned for, or should have been taken care of in the emergency fund. So do not feel defeated by a large emergency fund target. You could start where you are. Perhaps it's just as little as $500 set aside into a separate account. That the goal is to make that money not that easy to get to. You don't want to have $500 sitting in a drawer, and you don't want to have an extra $500 sitting in your checking account. It's too easy to just spend it. You want to open up a separate account, keep that money in there, something that takes a little bit of effort. So you might start out with $500, $1,000. Eventually, you probably want to work yourself up to several months worth of expenses. The needs differ by life stage and responsibility. The important thing is to begin. So example, if you're a college student, your parents are paying for a good chunk of your expenses. Maybe they're paying for a car, or they bought you a car, but maybe you're responsible for the tires on that car. So maybe $500 is plenty for that, because you can always get help. But once you're out on your own, you get your first apartment, mom and dad aren't paying your bills anymore. You might want to have $1,000 in reserve. So in case a little bit bigger thing happens, suddenly you have to come up with some money as a down payment on an apartment, or your roommate moves out and you're stuck with the bill for the couple months. And then once you have a family, maybe a couple of kids, a mortgage, then you're going to want to have several months of expenses. General rule is 3 to 6 months. 3 months if you have two people working in a very stable job, maybe a teacher or government worker or something, or whatever that is, as a pretty secure job. But if your job is a little risky, you might want to have a little bit more money in the bank. If you work construction, there's layoffs during the winters or bad weather. You might want to build that up a little bit. So the needs different by life stage, as Pastor Dan said, isn't a completely different life stage than some of us. He needs a little bit bigger emergency fund just to handle the baby bills or the expenses that come along with having a child and a mortgage and the solar panels on his roof or whatever else. So, but the important thing is that you start. And if it's $100, start with that $100 and get it up to $5, and then just keep going. So without margin, the unexpected often becomes debt. And debt can become to feel like carrying extra weight through every step of life. This is me at I do fitness events called High Rocks. Those kettlebells are just over 50 pounds a piece. We have to carry them for 200 meters. But a farmer carry is a really good metaphor. I can still keep moving forward, but every step requires more effort because of the weight. Debt is not a moral failure, but every payment is money already committed. The goal is not guilt, it is to start setting the weight down one debt at a time. Now, if anybody ever carried weights, did a farmer's carry, I grew up on a farm. I used to carry milk pails the same way. And I know that when you carry those full milk pails up to the milk house and you empty them and you carry them back, you feel much lighter than just the weight in the buckets. Your arms are almost floating after carrying those. So as the weight comes off, you'll feel the same when you get rid of debt. As the debt starts coming off, you start to feel hope, and hope can change everything. So if we want to start setting the weight down, where do we begin? One practical answer is surprisingly simple. It's called the debt snowball. The debt snowball starts with the smallest balance, the smallest loan, while maintaining required payments on the rest. When the first one's gone, you take that payment, whatever you were paying on debt 1, and you roll it into the payment on debt 2. When that one's gone, you roll it into 3. You keep moving it along. Highest interest first may mathematically save you some money, but behavior matters. When you start to see the wins, you start out making an extra $25 payment. And then when the first debt's paid off, now suddenly you're paying an extra $50 on the next debt. You get to the third debt and you're paying an extra $100 every month. It starts to go really fast. Mathematically, it's wrong, but mathematically isn't what got you into this problem. Wins create momentum. One debt and then the next. As that weight comes off, something important begins to return. You start to have choices. A budget gives you permission to spend. It's not a limiting thing. It's just giving you permission to, if you budget for something and you save up the money and you have the cash, spend the money, enjoy the money. So a budget does not tell you what you cannot afford. It tells us when we can. Plan, save, protect margin, remain faithful to priorities. When the money is there, it is okay to spend it. A budget is not a financial prison. It is a permission slip. That freedom to choose leads to a simple rhythm I think is worth remembering. Give, live, save, and enjoy. Faithful stewardship does not require guilt over every enjoyable purchase. If you plan wisely, saved, protected your foundation, and remain generous, enjoy it. Goal is not to spend without thinking, it is to spend without regret. This is our older son, Christopher, myself, Tina, our daughter-in-law, Kelly, who's turning 40 today, and our grandson, Cam, who is going to be 9 in 2 months. And he will tell you that every time you ask him when he'll be 9. We went to Disney last year for Christmas. We did a no gifts Christmas with our kids and the grandkids. Of course, the grandkids got something else, but so we went to Disney in California. We had a great time. We spent 2 days there. It was a Christmas of making memories. So rather than giving gifts that they're going to grow out of or not play with, we decided to give them some really great memories. My wife, after every trip, she puts together a book online. She figures it all out and does it all. And then we give the books to the kids as gifts so that they'll have something for the rest of their lives. So, but enjoying today matters. Faithful stewardship also asks us to prepare wisely for tomorrow. Prepare for tomorrow. Saving and investing matter, but order matters. Live within your means, create margin, build emergency savings, reduce limiting debt, then save and invest consistently as you are able. This webinar is not going to teach you about investing. It simply recognizes that preparing for tomorrow as stewardship. We are stewarding the money that God's given us now to make sure that it lasts and we're able to give and live generously the rest of our lives. I talked at a meeting with Pastor Dan earlier today. I don't like this picture. I don't think it's very pretty. But to try to find a picture with roots is really hard because they just don't have cameras that work underground, I guess. But it does make sense. It shows that the roots are going out far and the grips go down deep. And you have to have that foundation or it just falls apart, it just tips over, as a lot of the trees, the Palo Verde trees do in Arizona whenever there's a wind. So even though the tree is not the prettiest tree, it is a good choice, I guess, for this. So, and this is where all of these principles start to become personal for me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey. I just let you know, I've taught several of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University classes. I enjoy teaching them. I haven't done one in a while, but after doing this, I think I'm going to have another one. But I want to just cover my journey a little bit. And I'm not exactly sure how long ago this started, but I remember the day vividly as I was sitting in our house in Menominee Falls on our computer, and I opened up a spreadsheet, and I was trying to figure out where all of our money was going. At the time, I had gotten my first engineering job, so I was making decent money. My wife was working at an investment company here in Menominee Falls, and so she was making more money than she had in the past. She'd gotten her associate's degree and was doing really well, but we never had any money. Every time we wanted to buy something, we put it on a credit card. At the end of the month, we'd pay the credit card off, so we were smart. We didn't pay any interest or anything like that. We thought we were pretty smart, but we never had any money. Anything we wanted to do, credit or go out to eat, went on a credit card. Gas went on a credit card. I sat there for hours with that spreadsheet trying to figure out where our money had gone. And that I never figured it out. I couldn't figure out where all the money had gone. Recently, I figured out what was wrong with that philosophy. So we lived that way. We moved to Arizona, and I traveled a fair amount for work. And I was in Oklahoma, and my wife called and said that the refrigerator had died. And again, this should have been a minor inconvenience, but since you don't have any money, this turns into kind of a problem. So now we're either going to be putting it on a credit card or doing something. And I was just so frustrated at that point. But um, she not wanting to go into debt or put it on a credit card, she found a place that sold reconditioned refrigerators in Mesa. So she went there and she bought a really nice refrigerator for $800, and that refrigerator lasted exactly 24 hours before it died. And there was no warranties, no return, and the company went to answer the phone. We were just out $800 just to make everything a little bit worse. We had to have take that loss too. So I got back from Oklahoma, and of course we go to Lowe's and we open up a Lowe's credit card because that's what you do when you want to buy something. You put it on a credit card. And for both of us, that was our low point when we realized that we couldn't buy $1,000 or a $1,200 refrigerator because we didn't have any money despite making money. So I had been listening to Dave Ramsey on a podcast, and he and I had never been together on money. We just spent money, but we never really talked about it too much. If there was checks left in the checkbook and the bank said we had money, we had money. We started to talk about Dave Ramsey, and I started talking to her, and I gave her the book, The Total Money Makeover, and I read it and gave it to her, and she read it, and she was all in. She was tired of living the way we were living. So we read the book together. We started doing a budget. I wanted to take Financial Peace University, but there wasn't a class offered at the time in our area, so I decided to offer the class. So I did our first class, having just started doing the plan ourselves, and learned so much doing that, and had a lot of positive feedback from them. So in our case, and this again isn't for everybody, the Dave Ramsey plan and Financial Peace University was the answer. And doing that, I realized why my spreadsheet just didn't work, because I wasn't using a compass or a map. I wasn't using anything. I was looking in the rearview mirror saying, where did my money go? And it didn't matter how far back I looked, I could never find my money because it was gone. But as soon as we started doing a budget, then we started to tell the money where to go. And once we had a control of that, we realized that most of our money was going into restaurants and things that really didn't add anything to our lives. I actually can't even tell you where most of the money went because neither one of us really knew it. It was just gone. But once we got on a budget and we could see where the money was going, it was pretty easy to find out where the holes in the budget were. So we got on that plan, and the results are we've been on that plan since January of 15. And in those years, we went from not thinking we would ever retire to both of us retiring early. The motorcycle in this picture was the last thing we bought on credit, and it was a 3-year loan. I paid it off at about 2.5 years. I generally drove my motorcycles for 8 years. You would think in the remaining 5 years that I had, or I did not have a loan payment, I would have saved that money and paid cash for the next one, but I wasn't that smart. But that was the last bike I had financed. So that's my story. And now we are keeping our budget. We do nice trips. We go on vacation. Dan mentioned I'm an athlete. I do the High Rocks in May. I actually did a High Rocks in Rimini, Italy. My wife had gone over there with one of her girlfriends for a 2-week trip, and my brother and I flew over for the last week, and I did the event over Rimini, and we spent another week there just being tourists and just had a great time. So, Dan, you'll have to correct my introduction to international athlete now. So, all right. So moving on. So how much is enough? One's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. Enough income, enough savings, enough houses, enough stuff, enough retirement, or enough yachts. Culturally usually answers just a little bit more. The problem with a little bit more is that it just never quite arrives. Jesus gives us a warning in Luke 12, take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist of the abundance of possessions. I chose this picture because I was listening to somebody, I think it was a basketball player being interviewed. He had just bought his third yacht. And the reporter asked him, he goes, well, is that enough? Do you have enough yachts now? And he says, well, there's always room for one more. And it just, they may make a lot of money, but they spend a lot of money, as they say. But he was never going to be happy. He always had to have one more yacht. So maybe a financial peace requires us to stop asking how much more we can get, and let's ask a different question. How do you define enough? Dan, we missed a spelling. I missed a spelling. How do you find enough? Would anyone like to share a financial decision, difficult session, or change that brought more peace or freedom to them on their journey? If anybody wants to raise their hand or just unmute and start talking, that would be great.
Duane, I'll share with the group that I've been a financial advisor for 25 years, and it was interesting in that the most highly paid or high income earners had the most trouble with money, just as you've shared. The clients that I had for many, many years and many generations of clients is the ones that were middle income earners. They were also savers, and they were very proactive in saving, not reactive in buying. And it was interesting to note the differences from very, very highly paid professionals, their attitude on money, and the people middle class, which was most of my clients, how they viewed money and how important it was. They were proactive, not reactive. And it's really reassuring to know that most people aren't bad, but you got to put savings first. And I appreciate you talking about Dave Ramsey. I've not had any of his classes. I have tremendous respect for what he's been able to accomplish. But you've got to be proactive, not reactive, as you move forward with life and everything, including money, saving, investments, etc.
Patrick, I agree. They say doctors are some of the worst money people in the world. And more doctors file bankruptcy after they get out of their practice than almost any other occupation.
This is
I'm
Janice.
Janice,
Oops.
yeah, go.
Um, how do you define enough? You know, we have not been disciplined with a budget in our younger years, and as such, it's like we never really had permission to spend. So it feels, you know, like and as such, you know, we stuffed it away, and when you could put more in the older years into the retirement savings, we stuff that away, max up the savings, and yet I don't know, maybe we didn't live. So I appreciate considering how much is enough, and a budget being a permission to spend.
I'll share one strategy that has worked really well for my wife and I in budgeting is to look at the organizations, the congregations. This I remember. And looking at giving as a monthly thing, not an end of the year thing, so that it's a drumbeat, right? I remember when I started at the Synod, and Teresa, who, if you ever call the Synod office, Teresa will answer the phone, and you will get your whatever question you have. She will answer it. But she said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's my tie to the Synod, right?"
Mhm.
Because that's what I do. And when I'm in a congregation, I set up monthly giving. When I serve in a ministry, I set up monthly giving. When I'm when I'm serving an organization in a volunteer role. I set up monthly giving. And so that's just part of the drumbeat. In the same way, I've set up savings. So every time there's a paycheck drops, there's money that I don't even see. It just goes right into a savings account. And then the other thing, the snowball is really helpful for someone in my life stage. For the first time ever, my wife and I found when we moved to Phoenix, because it's a driving city, we lived in Portland, Oregon. We only needed one car to drive to Costco. That was it. And but we moved to Phoenix, and all of a sudden we needed a second car, and so we found ourselves with two car payments, and that's never fun. And so when we paid off the Subaru, we just took that payment and put it towards the Kia, and now the Kia is going to be paid off within the year, and I've never paid a car off that fast. So. Yeah, it will feel good to be driving around in a paid off car. But then the fun thing will be, what do I do with all this money? What's the next thing?
I'll
And
take
so
some.
there's a freedom. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I'll cover as part of the Dave Ramsey financial piece. And I think it's just a smart thing to sit down when you do your budget is define your wants and needs. A need is food. A want is a new car. But not necessarily a new car, but a different car. If your car is running, I like people that say I had to get a new car because this one was nickel and diming me to death. Nickels and dimes are a lot cheaper than $1,000 bills. So a lot of times people buy a car under the assumption that the old car is not reliable. But that's a want. I want a new car. Some people buy a car as soon as they make their last payment, and they go out and they buy another car, and they go right back into a payment situation. Cars are one of the highest marketed items, and a lot of it is fear. If you're driving a 4-year-old car, it's not reliable. Well, I've seen plenty of cars on the road that were more than 10 or 15 years old that are running just fine. So it's just a misnomer that it's costing me more to fix it than it is to drive it. But if you really add it up, the true cost of ownership of a new car with the insurance, maintenance, and everything else that you still need to do, it's really hard to justify buying a brand new car. Right.
Duane, the logic I use on that is that you might reach a point in your life that you want to get rid of your car. And the question I would be asking is, well, if I trade that car in, is it junked or is there going to be somebody else driving that car?
Mm,
And if it's somebody else driving that car, why don't I just keep it and drive it myself and save the money?
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I have a 2000 pickup truck that I drive in Arizona. Um, the newest car we own right now is we just bought a uh, Hyundai Palisade because we have those grandkids now, and of course you need to have 7 seats then. We bought it used, and it's real interesting when you have cash and you decide how much cash you have to give on a new vehicle, and then you go buy a car to match your cash rather than buying a car that matches your budget. There's a huge difference because car dealerships, one of the first questions they will ask you is, how much do you want your payment to be? Instead of how much do you want to spend on a car? Nobody buys a car anymore. They buy a payment. Wants and needs are huge. You look at your budget and you see, I had one guy in Financial Peace University, he said, I just figured out where my retirement is going to the restaurants. It's $1,200 a month he was spending in restaurants. At some nice restaurants, and it's probably a lot of alcohol. So for him to get his $1,000 emergency fund took him exactly 1 month. He just didn't go to restaurants. So, interesting when you put things down on paper and commit to it. How a need becomes a A need is important, but a want becomes something you can do later. Right. Anybody else? Thank you, guys. Okay, we're continuing the proverb now. So when Jesus then told him a parable, the land of the rich man produced abundantly. And he thought to himself, what should I do? For I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store all my grain and all my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich towards God. The richest people aren't always the ones with the most. They're often the ones who know when they have enough. There's nothing wrong with goals, success, or preparing well, but if peace always depends on the next level, peace will always be one level away. This is a very powerful proverb and a very powerful statement. It's the ones that realize when enough is enough and they can just start being happy. Contentment is not complacency, though. Contentment does not mean that we stop planning. It doesn't mean that we stop working. It doesn't mean that we stop preparing for tomorrow. If you look at this picture, it's a very peaceful scene. I'd like to go and spend a few months here with a boat out on the lake. That would be fantastic. It's a very peaceful scene. But if you look, there's also preparation. Somebody cut that firewood. Somebody split that firewood. Somebody stacked that fire. And they did that so that come the winter, they can enjoy the warmth that they can create from that fire. That is not complacency. That is contentment with wisdom. We can be grateful for what we have today while still preparing faithfully for tomorrow. Paul wrote, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. The important word is learned. Contentment is not automatic. It is something that we practice. So contentment means enjoying what we have while preparing wisely. What keeps stealing that contentment? Very often it's comparison. We compare our homes, our car, our vacations, even our retirement. But comparison is very expensive, sometimes financially, always emotionally. We've all heard the expression, we're just trying to keep up with the Joneses, but I have a question. Why are you trying to keep up with the Joneses? The Joneses are broke. We've all seen it. We've seen the people that pull in it with the new car and you think, wow, they must be doing really well, but we don't see the payment. We see the big house. We don't see the mortgage. We see the vacation pictures, but we don't see the credit card statement that shows up a month later. Comparison asks us to compete with a financial life we know almost nothing about. Contentment begins when we stop using someone else's life as a measuring stick for our own. Social media, notorious for this. Everybody wants to post the perfect picture of them on their perfect vacation, having a perfectly good time. You don't see the fights when they get home about how they're going to pay for it, or the not being able to afford to buy groceries because they have to pay the credit card bill. But when we stop measuring our lives against someone else's, we become freer to ask a much better question: is who can benefit? Who else can benefit from us in our preparation and our planning? Financial peace gives us freedom to look beyond ourselves to our neighbors, congregations, communities, and people who may never repay us. Our financial decisions help shape the kind of neighbors who we become. We can ask not only, am I okay, but who can I help? And that brings us to the heart of Christian generosity. God first gave, so we give. Christian generosity begins with grace, not guilt. 1 John said, first love because he first loved us. God gave first, so we give. Paul reminds us that God loves a cheerful giver. Generosity is not meant to be squeezed out of us by guilt. It grows from gratitude. Martin Luther consistently connected faith with service to the neighbor. God's gifts are not entrusted to us only for ourselves. They also equip us to save and to benefit others. Questions are not only, how much am I giving, or have I reached a certain percentage? The deeper question is my giving intentional, joyful, and grateful. Faithful stewardship and generosity rarely happen by accident. But generosity is bigger. Generosity is bigger than what we put in our offering plate. Financial peace creates something else, the capacity to respond. This picture is from the annual picnic at St. John's. This is actually the first time I have met Pastor Dan. This lady was signing up as a volunteer. It's things like this that financial peace and knowing when enough is enough gives you time and talents to use your talents and your generosity to participate in. So generosity can strengthen congregations, feed neighbors, support shelters, care for creation, help families make possible work we may never see. Good stewardship enables us to address community needs, not just achieve personal financial goals. And sometimes that impact of faithful stewardship reaches further than we will ever see. This is the tree. Somebody planted this tree, but I doubt it was that family that's sitting under the tree. Whoever planted this tree will probably never truly appreciate the shade that this family is getting. Most of us live under the shade that we did not plant. We worship in churches that we did not build, benefit from sacrifices that we did not make. What shade will I leave for someone else? Legacy is the life we model, generosity others see, communities we strengthen, creation we care for, and people whose lives are better because we were here. They planted it. They planted that seed anyway. That brings us back to where we began. What does faithful stewardship look like in practice? So I believe this is our last time. I'm going to ask if anybody has anything like to say about faithful stewardship. Maybe it was volunteering your time at a food shelter. There's many of the homeless events that happen. Maybe did a 5K run, walk, volunteered at a 5K run, walk, or something like that. So anybody have anything to share about how you've been generous or been able to support your community?
My partner and I are involved with the Wounded Warrior Project, and last month we did a packaging of about 1,000 boxes of food for Arizona for resources, whoever needs it. And it was an assembly line, and there was probably about maybe 100, 150 of us in this assembly line, and talk about building cooperation and caring and sharing. It was an awesome experience, a day of giving. And we found that it's more important to give than to take. We really love the giving.
We've had this is Janice. We've had maybe the same problem with giving that we have with spending, and in terms of not really budgeting. And I have to thank the church for having a methodology of a stewardship drive each year and a goal of 10%. I mean, that it took us some years to build up to 10%, but building up some each year got us there. And then every year after, it's pretty straightforward. If you have more, get a raise, have more income, increase your giving. It's the other part of the giving that budgeting would help also to know what we have to give. We give lots of time. I volunteer at a homeless center for women and work on helping them obtain phones through the government program, but there's money involved even for free stuff, right? So take advantage of the Thrive in Action teams along with volunteering, and it's a good life. I really appreciate that opportunity.
I can, I volunteer for organizations and yeah, serve a lot of time. But I for some reason this popped into my brain the opportunity to respond, right? So I probably 2 weeks ago we had someone knock on the door and they were gathering signatures. It was right around Synod Assembly, actually. Uh, and it was like 110 degrees out. This, young woman was outside gathering signatures. And I forget what it was even for. But I've made it, if we normally have water in the fridge. And so I was like, "Do you want water?" And her face lit up, right? Just for the offer to have some water. And so I went in and this is always fun to ask, would you like bubbly water or for La Croix, right? And to bring her out too was just to see it on her face. So sometimes it's the little things, uh, like pulling some cold water out of your fridge for someone who's been walking the streets, and that not having to think about it.
I'd say,
No,
I think, sorry.
no, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah. So what I've been thinking a lot about is my daughter lives in Minnesota, in a town in western Minnesota where they have both Somali and Latino immigrants. And the need is huge. And I have been honored that she has been on the ground, going out and sharing as a deacon of the ELCA the word of God's grace and God's love for all. But I also feel honored that I have been able in my little place in Wisconsin and Maryland. I can't be there all the time, but I can still support some of the needs that need to happen, from providing diapers for families or food or other things, which I have done through, I gotta admit, I don't love Amazon, but Amazon has the ability to for folks in different organizations to offer a list that you can help with. And I feel lucky that God has granted me the resources that I have to be able to do that, but mostly to be there for folks who are, being persecuted and not having an opportunity to live a normal life. So
Awesome. Anybody else have anything? All right, move on. Okay, so trust God, live intentionally, create margin, define contentment, practice generosity. These practices will look differently for a young family, a retiree, a person carrying debt, or a person with significant resources. That is just a fine. We're not going to give everybody the same assignment that we want you to do this, but we are going to ask each of you to do one thing. This week, take one step towards financial peace. And financial peace is as you define it. I can't define it for you. It's completely on your terms. But what is one step that you can take? Maybe it's a budget. Maybe it's just sitting down, going over your finances for the last month and trying to figure out where that money went. And if you can't figure out where it went, that's a sign that if you don't know where it went, then you didn't tell it to go there. So again, every dollar has to have a direction. And if you have a direction to put it, it will arrive there. If not, somebody will just take it from you. So your first step might be your budget. It might just be an honest spending review. Maybe you're going to put that first $500 into an emergency fund, or maybe you're going to make one extra payment on a debt this month. Just find the lowest one and just pay whatever you can extra on it. Maybe you're going to go and meet with a financial person or use an online calculator, however you feel comfortable. But maybe you're going to review your retirement. Maybe you're going to find out that you have way more money than you need and you should have been given more of it to our church. Or maybe you're going to find out that you have a few more years to go. But either way, if you know, you can give it direction. If you don't know, again, it's going to happen one way or another. You are going to retire at some point. It'd be really nice to know when you can do it on your terms rather than God making the decision or your boss making that decision. So maybe you should sit down and decide, maybe we already have enough, or maybe we have enough of this, but we could use a little bit more of that. Maybe we have enough stuff. Maybe we could use a little bit more generosity. That would be another one. Start making your generosity intentional instead of, waiting for something to come along. Maybe you actually actively go out and find a local charity that maybe needs some help. Maybe you do something maybe you did it as work. Maybe you're an accountant with work. Maybe there's a charity that could use your skills to put together a budget or a financial plan for themselves. There's lots of opportunities out there. I want to leave with you with the thought that has guided everything we have talked about here today. And the purpose of good financial stewardship is not to die with the most money. It is to use God's gifts faithfully. We began with God's ownership, moved to intentional management. We asked what enough means and saw how peace and margin create freedom to live generously. That is what managing God's gifts means to me. That is what managing. Right. Dan, do we want to do the prayer here or do you want to have another discussion?
Duane, you can pray, and then there will be there's another slide full of resources that Duane and I will go over, and then we can, if there are any questions or any resources that are missing, right? Like Karen has a lot of resources, I know. So especially for the recorded session, we can capture that. So Duane, how about you? You can either pray now or pray after the resources.
Great. I'll pray now. Gracious God, everything we have is a gift from you. Give us wisdom to manage those gifts faithfully, courage to make difficult choices, contentment to recognize when we have enough, and generous hearts ready to respond to needs around us. Free us from fear, comparison, and worry. Guide our decisions, bless our work, strengthen our communities, and use the gifts you have entrusted to us to bring hope and blessing to others. Help us take the next faithful step. In Jesus' name, amen. This is something that I put in here so we can discuss it now. Dan and I talked, this will be going out after the meeting. Everybody's going to get a copy of the presentation and any of the notes and other resources that we have. We talked about, I found some of these. Janice has the Interfaith one from Tucson. But these are resources that you can click on. Thrive at Money Canvas is a free service offered to all, basically to every Lutheran. Is that correct, Dan? Or anybody?
It's just free.
Yeah, it's just free.
I think they've made a lot of money, and they're a nonprofit, and they're trying to figure out how to spend that money.
Okay.
And this is one of the ways that they're doing that. So
yeah, I did go through some of it. It's very interesting. I think it has a lot of information there, and I think it's done in a manner that makes it fairly simple to get started. So, Janice, I don't know if you want to mention this at all. Interfaith Community Services Financial Management. It's a course that I believe most of it is online, but I think there's 2 in-person classes in Tucson. So if you're down in that area, you might be interested. If you know any more about it, Janice, or
well, it's very helpful for the kinds of things you've been talking about. Being intentional, being working with a budget, and being in control of your money instead of it controlling you. So, and interfaith community services helps people on an emergency basis and with food and with all kinds of things. But this is this was written up in the paper recently that they basically had done all this emergency work and they had said, what how can we really change things for people so they're not really ending up in a crisis all the time? They're not needing to seek help all the time. And they came down to this aspect of knowing about money and being intentional and some of the tools. So it's the root cause, right? The root cause of these other things that were happening to people that they're giving wonderful services to. But how can they really change their life? And like you say, have peace. So I think really highly of that organization.
Yeah. And while no one else on this live presentation it lives in Tucson, there may be someone watching the recording, but I also think this is why we wanted to include it. It highlights a local organization that people can meet with in person. And so odds are that wherever you are, there may be a local organization that you can meet with in person. It doesn't always have to be an online tool or program. I think that's a really important thing to remember.
When we lived in Menominee Falls, our faith had a posting up for interfaith. I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was interfaith something. And it was like a community services. And they were looking for volunteers. I volunteered to mow the lady's lawn. And it turned out to be one of the best friendships I had until she passed away. She was just an incredible person. She had a wonderful story. And she had the most perfect lawn. I love cutting her lawn. She had a little John Deere lawnmower, and it's just fun. Oh, but I know there was
perfect before or after you mowed it?
It was perfect before I got there. I'm taking no credit for her lawn,
okay.
But man, and she was composted everything, and she had flowers. Yeah. It was just an incredible backyard.
Yeah, I would just add, as Dan said, I mean, what's fabulous is so many interfaith community services or community services, whether they're Lutheran or not, have incredible resources for folks who are really working to figure out how to be independent, how to live on their own, and how to be able to be financially stable, but also more so stable in their household in the future. So
yeah. And if there isn't one, and you feel so confident over the next few years that you could teach this stuff, right? Like Duane, or just teach it as you learn it, like Duane. This is a great opportunity for the church to be that place. So also throw that out there. The next thing I can speak to Quicken. So when I started, needing an accountant, you get your first job somewhere down the road, and you're like, I need to track this stuff. My accountant mentioned Quicken, and so that's so anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's a software that can track where your money goes, and it's really helpful in that you can connect all your bank accounts, and it automatically tracks, and then you can organize it as you need to organize it. I don't use Quicken. I use Monarch Money, which is, if you're an Apple user, I think it's a really helpful tool. But Quicken is also a great tool for tracking your money as well.
Was it $4 a month, Dan, when we looked?
Quicken is about, there are different versions. The cheapest version is $4 a month.
This one is Dave Ramsey's Every Dollar. That is a budgeting tool, an online budgeting tool. There's a free version. The free version, you enter in all your transactions manually. There's a paid version. I believe it's out $100 a year, which you can link it to your bank account and it'll automatically pull in all the transactions. And then you just move them into the budget categories. And if you have $500 budgeted, as you move money in there, you'll see the 500 go down, until the end of the month. And hopefully if you budget it, and everything went as planned, you're basically going to be at zero by the end of the month. So, this next link is also a Dave Ramsey link. It's how to use a zero-based budget tool. Zero-based budget is basically every month you're going to put down what you expect your income to be. So if it's $5,000, then you're going to create a budget, and at the end of the budget, you're going to have spent every one of those dollars. So you're going to put, whatever your mortgage is, you're going to put whatever your payments are, your insurance, anything that's coming out this month, and then at the bottom you're going to have some funds. You're going to have maybe a new car fund, or if you do your insurance on a 6-month basis or an annual basis, maybe you're going to put $30 a month into that fund so that you have enough at the end of the year to pay your insurance. You can have different sinking funds, as they call it. But basically, if $5,000 comes in, you have to have given a direction to every one of those dollars. Some of it's going to go into savings. One thing that you have to include, otherwise you will not do it, is a miscellaneous fund. And put some money in the miscellaneous fund so that when you buy that pack of gum at the store, it goes into the miscellaneous fund. Again, a budget is permission to spend. So if you put $100 in a miscellaneous fund, and that's going to cover, the soda that you get for lunch, or the gum, or something like that, you don't want to be trying to sit there and monkey around with those little items and try to figure out how I'm going to put those into a budget. Just create a little slush fund in there to do it, but make sure that that little slush fund doesn't become a big slush. And the last one here is this is actually to a YouTube video. It's how to just using Excel, how to create a zero-based budget, and it's about a 7-minute video. It shows you how to start from scratch. Basically, you put your income at the top, and you put your outgoing underneath it, and it'll sum everything up for you as it goes along. I know on the most. Go ahead, Dan.
We'll send all of these out.
Yes, we'll be sending all these out. So
yep. I'm wondering if anyone else has tools that they've used that have really worked for them, or tools that have not worked for them.
Well, Dan, thank you for offering me the opportunity to open this conversation. Duane, I love the concept of, financial peace. But what I really appreciate is in the coming year, the ELCA will be creating a values-based budgeting opportunity for individuals to think about some of these same concepts, but within Lutheran theology. As you know, Duane, I mean, the challenge we have is financial peace sometimes feels a little bit like you have to do. And I really love how you framed, you've taken all of those concepts and brought them into Lutheran theology, right? It's your choice.
Thank you.
You really have. But I just want folks to know that in the future, probably in early 2027, the ELCA will be putting out a values-based financial program for individuals. And that's what, we're working toward it. It's not there yet, but I think we're going to get there by 2027, Duane. And I would love
that'd be awesome
for you to work with not only me, but my colleagues like Tim Brown and others as we move towards that. So thanks.
Tim Brown sounds familiar. Who is he?
Tim Brown.
So,
yeah, Tim Brown is the director of
Stewardship. Met Pastor
Stewardship
Tim Brown.
For the ELCA.
Yeah.
Okay. I have, Dan?
So, Pastor Tim Brown led our narrative mission
Yeah.
plan webinar
Yeah.
for
He
the
did,
stewardship
didn't he,
team.
Dan?
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And he is the
That's where I
director
know him from.
of
Okay.
stewardship for ELCA, and I'm lucky enough to work under him in a variety of capacities. So Duane, I hope that we can engage you, because I think
Sure.
you've got lots of passion and lots of resources that will help us move forward in thinking about this in a Lutheran theology, right?
Just
So
know what it's done for me, and I'm not bragging by any means, but we gave the Total Money Makeover book to our two sons and their wives, and we said, read it. If you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, we don't have to talk about it. There's no pressure. And we never talked about it again. But yet our son's air conditioning went out, and they're talking about, basically they're going to make do until they have cash. Then they'll get their air conditioning fixed once they have the cash saved up. But they're not going to go out and take out a loan. Our other son has everything paid off. He's going to have his house paid off in a couple of years, and that includes buying not brand new cars, but used cars. So yeah,
he
it's
knew his
just
model, right?
yeah, it's
God
such
is
a treat.
generous,
Yep.
and we
Yep.
have to think about that. Yep.
Yeah. It's also it highlights the big difference between a need and a want. Dwayne, I don't know if your uh, your son is in Arizona
No, he's
in the
up here.
summer, right? Right. So
Right.
in Arizona, air
Yep.
conditioning is a need. Uh,
Yep.
Heat, right? Maybe you can do without and bundle up, but in Wisconsin, heat is not
And
a
what he did
want.
is he went out and spent $125 on a small window unit, and
Mhm.
took a couple of fans to keep him and Kelly's room cool and their son's room cool, and the rest of the house um, floats. And then during the day, they open and put a fan out to cool the rest of the house down.
Yeah.
But it works. They're getting by, and it's only another week, and we'll be out of this. And so yes. So,
But
If
in
only that was true
January,
for Phoenix.
when it's, you know, frigid, we need to have
mhm.
heat, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And we stayed at his house one time for 2 weeks while they were on a vacation. We'd stay with their grandson, and of course, the first day they were gone, the heat went out. So Grandpa had to fix that. So,
Yeah.
but we didn't have to buy a new furnace at least. I want to thank everybody. This was an extremely enjoyable experience. I love the conversation. I love that the people that participated. It's so great to hear. Every time you hear a story from somebody else, you learn something. Um,
Mhm.
and that's what this is about. It's just about learning, lifelong learning.
Yeah.
So if there's no other questions, um, Dan, do you want to get us out of here?
Go in peace, to give and to save and to serve.
Manage God's gifts faithfully. Amen.
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 All right.
Thanks, Duane.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.